Oh, why hello there. What up though? Do you come here often? Do you come here often? Welcome back to the Den of Nerds. I am Josh, and we've got a great show for you today. It is Monday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day for those of you out there that are celebrating. And I saw people celebrating all damn weekend, so I couldn't tell. There's just, I guess people are just, they're so passionate about celebrating that holiday that, you know, I just didn't know we were going to celebrate it all goddamn weekend going into Monday. But anyway, happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you that celebrate. Hope you're having a good time, enjoying yourselves. Hopefully you're drinking plenty of beeros. Or actual beer, too. That could be cool. Anyway, we got a great show for you today, man. The Russo brothers. You know these guys. They came back to Marvel Studios. They're saving Marvel, but they just did a movie that a lot of people are shitting on in the Electric State. And they're out there talking about Marvel, talking about movies, talking about cinemas, talking about AI. Some very interesting comments made by the Russo brothers. We'll get into it today. I wanted to focus on two specific things they said. Number one, treating Secret Wars as a beginning rather than an ending. And we'll connect that to some dots. Very cool. Also, they did talk a little bit more about Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. So, of course, as always, I have to talk about that a little bit because I think they are continuing to suggest that my theory could indeed be correct. So we'll get into that. On top of that today, guys, we have a Warhammer story, and I know you're all so excited. Henry Cavill Warhammer news. We actually have some information, and it's really cool. It's super nerdy, but it is literally, I think, one of the first pieces of information, one of the first pieces of news about what Warhammer is cooking. Amazon, Henry Cavill, Games Workshop, the Warhammer Cinematic Universe. Obviously, you guys know I'm a massive fan of Warhammer. I love this property, this IP, this setting. We have some news. So we're going to break it down, and I'm excited to get into that later on in today's show. Now, as far as show notes are concerned, this is a big week. We've got the watch party tomorrow night for Daredevil Born Again, episode 4. I think it's going to be pretty peak. And a reminder, too, next week, I believe we get episode 5 and 6. So we will continue to do the watch parties, but I think next week's watch party is going to be pretty big. It's going to be nice and girthy, crazy, long watch party. So look forward to that. But we will, of course, do tomorrow night's episode as well. So look out for that. I will be live at 8:30 in the evening. We'll watch the episode together. We'll break it down. It'll be a good time as always. Wednesday night, we're playing some Marvel Rivals, man. We're going to play Marvel Rivals as a community. I know we missed last week. It was basically all your guys' fault in chat. No big deal, but we'll be back at it this week. Wednesday night, we're playing Marvel Rivals together, baby. So we'll do that on Wednesday night. It's going to be super fun. Check that out. As far as for the rest of the week, I think obviously a super big deal will be Friday. I will not be live streaming Friday. And the reason I'm not going to be streaming is because I'm traveling. I'm going to be traveling to Cleveland. And I will be doing a live panel with Star Wars Theory. We're doing a live version of the Nerd Theory podcast. That'll be happening this Friday at 3. So if you can make it to that con, I know some of you guys are going to be there. It's going to be super cool. I hope to be able to meet you guys there at the actual panel. We'll do a show. We'll meet some people. We'll do Q&A. We'll hang out. It'll be a really good time. I'm really excited for that. By the way, I have an incredible gift because it's also Theory's birthday. So I've been thinking about what to get him for his birthday, and I have an incredible gift. I can't tell you what it is. I'm going to keep it a secret. You'll see it if you're there on Friday. But I got him an incredible gift. And I know some of you guys are asking if it'll be streamed. It's not going to be streamed. But I believe he's going to record it. Theory has like a whole media team that records a lot of this stuff when he goes to conventions. So at the very least, you'll see a vlog of us meeting and hanging out, probably after the con, etc., etc. But I don't think it's going to be streamed. So no show Friday. I will be out of town. But then I will be back at it. We'll be back to regular next week. I'm not really like ready to do conventions and to like meet fans and do all that sort of stuff, but I'm making an exception here because it's Theory's birthday. It's very close to me. I live fairly close to Cleveland. So I'm going to scoot over there, hang out for an afternoon and an evening, but I'm literally coming back Saturday. I won't even be at the con on Saturday. I'm coming back. And that's just because of family, man. You know, got the little baby, got the toddler. You know, I can't leave Mama Bear just yet for full weekends. Now, later in the year, yeah, we're going to do a lot of conventions, and I'll probably do a lot of shows with Theory. You know what I mean? We talked about this a little bit, but yeah, we'll probably do some nerd theories at different conventions. So look out for announcements about that perhaps later in the year. But that probably won't be happening for me until the summer, maybe late summer, just because of a lot of the stuff that's on my plate. But that's, of course, really cool. That's going to be really fun, man. And I'm excited. I'm excited to meet him. I'm excited to do the live Nerd Theory show. I'm excited to give him my gift. I'm excited to try to get everybody there into Warhammer. It's going to be a good-ass time. So this is going to be a fun week. I'm already really excited. I'm already really excited. Maybe I'll put some posts on the Discord or some posts on Instagram as I'm traveling on Friday and I go to meet him and everybody. But again, hopefully meeting some of you guys on Friday as well. And other than that, we're just going to keep on trucking away, man. Plenty of nerd venging to do. Chat, how was the weekend for you? How you guys feeling, man? How was the weekend? Did you do anything fun? Did you get some rest? Hope you guys are feeling good. I'm feeling great. For whatever reason, I got incredible sleep last night. Incredible sleep is my favorite drug. It's rare, hard to come by. You'll never feel better. It's my favorite. So I had incredible sleep last night. It was super great. I'm feeling pretty damn good today, and I'm excited to get into all the news today. You know, a couple other things, maybe I'll tease this out a little bit more. But we're cooking some really cool videos right now. So I have I wanted to start doing some comic book breakdowns on the channel. Mostly because I need to get away from covering MCU stuff. Obviously not completely away from it because it's a big part of what I do. But I really feel like putting my creative energy into stuff that's not so attached to like what Marvel's doing right now. Like, frankly, I really like Daredevil Born Again, but I'm not really interested in making content around Daredevil Born Again. Like, there's just not too much that is in there that really excites me or makes me speculate or have theories or whatever, right? So I've been looking for a way to connect to some stuff that's a little bit more evergreen, stuff that I love from Marvel, you know? So we're going to attempt some comic book stuff, and I have a really cool first video. It is going to break down 2015 Secret Wars and the 85 plus issues of comic books that led up to that story. Man, I got to tell you, I think we really cooked in this video. It's not quite ready yet. I don't know if it'll drop later today or tomorrow. But yeah, I'm quite excited about it. I think you guys are going to like it. I put a little teaser out on Twitter. People seem to really like it, except for Rob. Rob from Comics Explained did not like it. And he geeked me out so bad. Here, I'll just show you this because I think it's so funny. And I don't know if he's being serious or not, but dude, this shit was so funny to me. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. Rob retweeted it. You got to see this. Check this out. This is so funny. So this is this is Rob retweeting my post about it, and it's this GIF right here. Get off my turf, punk. And hilarious. I don't know, for whatever reason, this literally made me burst out laughing when I saw this when I was laying on the couch last night when I saw it. But yeah, look, obviously Rob does his thing. If you watch the video, you'll notice my stuff's a little bit different. I'm trying to go for a little bit more of like a comedic, fun, jokey thing with it. In fact, here, I'll let you listen to this real quick, guys, and then we'll get into the news, okay? This is a fun little preview. Let me pause this. This will give an example of what we're cooking. Doom comes in there and he's like, "Reed, you bitch ass mother! I know you're here doing some crazy shenanigans. What the hell?" And then they have a fight, and then Reed gets Doom to admit that Reed would have done it better, which is wild. Like, he basically just talks so much shit to him that Doom gets to the point where he's like, "Yeah, I guess you would have done better, but who gives a you, man? I'm God Emperor Doom up in this bitch. I don't give a shit." But Owen Reese was like, "Oh, really? He would have done better? Well, guess what? Now he has the power, bitch." And Dr. Doom's like, "What?" And Reed's like, "Hell yeah." And then Reed Richards restores the entire multiverse using the godlike powers of his son, Franklin Richards, which is like a whole nother thing. Again, if you know, you know. And if you don't, We do not have time for that shit right now. Doom comes in there and he's like, "Reed, you." So it's it's a little different. Has a comedic, jokey style. I think you guys are gonna really dig it, and I also really love that comic book story. So I have plenty to say about that comic book story. And it's timely. It's timely, of course, too, because we also have all the concept art leaking out, etc., etc. So look out for that, man. Cooking some cool stuff for you guys on the main channel. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the news, man. Let's get into the topics, and then we will, as always, break into Q&A later in the show. I expect we'll get into some juicy stuff. I expect you guys will have a lot to say, some questions to ask me, some things you'd like to get me triggered by. So we'll break into that later on in the show. Okay, let's talk about the Russo brothers, man. Obviously, the Russo brothers coming back to Marvel, super big deal. They're literally about, after they finish up the press for this movie, they're about to go film. They're going to do it. They're cooking the stories right now, and they're about to go film with Robert Downey Jr. and all the Avengers. They're doing Doomsday. It's kind of crazy. I almost can't believe we're here. Well, there was this huge article that came out in the Times over the weekend. It's great, and it has a couple of really interesting parts in it. Multiple different articles are being written, just taking little sections that the Russos have said in this article and extrapolating it out into all these big articles. And I guess I'm going to kind of do the same because there's some wild shit they said. And so let's begin. So here's one of the things they said in the article. The Russo brothers say their goal is to bring the focused narrative back to the MCU with the upcoming Avengers films. The MCU has gotten quite large. There needs to be more of a central narrative. And if you look at here, we're going to take a look at the actual article here. Again, great article on the Times. Highly recommend you check the whole thing out. Here's where it is, and this is kind of interesting. So they are asked, or rather the article reads, the trouble is there are now 29 Marvel TV series and 35 films. What? Is that even true? The commitment to storytelling has fallen off a cliff, and convoluted plots have taken root. What will the Russo brothers do about it? Yes, the MCU has got quite large, that's for sure, Anthony admits. I mean, frankly, we struggle with that same issue. But part of the reason Joe and I decided to go back is exactly what you're talking about. There needs to be more of a central narrative. That there was something we were very specific about when we worked with Marvel before. We would like to bring the focused narrative back. Now, I'll add just one more element here, but there's another quote and another thing we have to talk about, and then I'm going to break into some crazy speculation, okay? Here's an interesting one. The article reads, well, if anyone can save Marvel, it will be these two. After all, they were the ones who made it billions in the first place. I ask Pratt, that's Chris Pratt, can these men fix the MCU? Sure, he says. They know that it's the mundane, human brokenness of characters that drive stories and make the Avengers great. They have this ability to find the humanity. So this is all really interesting. And one of the reasons I bring this up, and I keep bringing all this stuff up in general with the Russos, is the fact that many people, and maybe you're one of those people, many people just believe that this whole thing was sort of done as a scramble behind the scenes because Marvel Studios has sort of fallen off, and it's all a scramble. Robert coming back, scramble. Russo's coming back, scramble. The story they're about to cook, scramble. And there's no way that this could be well thought out, and there's no way that there could be a plan to bring focus back to Marvel Studios. And yet that is exactly what they are saying. Now, here's another additional quote here that I think is important. The Russo brothers say the upcoming Avengers films will be a new beginning for the MCU. We told an ending story with Endgame. Now we're going to tell a beginning story. Now, this was from a Brazilian outlet known as Omelette. Very good. They get some good stuff there. But I can't always read their stuff because it's not always perfectly translated. But regardless, this is a great quote, and it ties into exactly the other stuff too. So let me set the table for you and talk about what's going on here. So they're talking about a focused narrative, and they're talking about a beginning. And I think ultimately the truth of where Marvel is currently at, and this truth is so obvious, and yet it's articulated in all sorts of ways. But the truth is that it just feels completely disjointed and disconnected. You know, during the Infinity Saga, every film felt like an additional chapter. Every post-credit scene felt meaningful. Not all of them were meaningful. Some of them actually got retconned, which is something we don't even talk about. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the exact thing that was going on. It matters more like what the feeling was for the fans, for the audience. And the audience in the Infinity Saga was so much more clearly plugged in, so much more easily able to understand the character arcs, motivations, and how it all fits together. And I don't think the Russos get enough credit for how ambitious a lot of their movies were, including the very first one with Winter Soldier. And then Civil War is like an extension of that. And it just keeps getting bigger, 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 crazier, crazier, crazier. So what does this mean within the context of all of that? How could they find a focused narrative, and how could these Avengers films become a beginning? Well, I think the truth is these movies, and particularly like, well, really it's both of them, and there's a lot we don't know about them. Let's just kind of talk about them as a functioning story. We know for sure that there are certain things being baked into this story that are really central to the characters themselves. So, you know, going back to the video that Paul from Heavy Spoilers put out a couple of weeks ago, I thought it was a pretty significant scoop. He was talking about how he had heard that Natasha Romanoff is going to be back, but she's not going to be the one from our universe. This is going to be like an evil version of Black Widow. And the whole idea of that, and the way that Paul framed it in his video, was like Florence Pugh seeing that is going to be crazy. And for her character, there's all this trauma. There's so much stuff that she wishes she could have said to Nat, wishes she could have treated her better, etc., etc. There is a hole in her heart because of the way that Nat left and everything like that. So to have an evil version of Black Widow show up and then properly use all of those feelings and kind of flip it on its head and have her actually have to fight against like an evil version of that character, we know that's at least one thing they're cooking. And it seems like thematically they'd like to put this new version of the Avengers through the ringer by seeing evil versions of the heroes that they idolize from the Infinity Saga. And so in a sense, you could see how the character stuff with this, even the new cast of Avengers, is being built up in these movies, perhaps better and more appropriately than it ever was in the last several years. The Russos really do excel at that. And we've heard them speak a lot recently about how they had cool ideas. They've always had cool ideas for Secret Wars. And I think they had cool ideas for Secret Wars even like 5 years ago, right? When they were cooking up Endgame and Infinity War. But they've also spoken a lot recently about how they needed a story idea to get them there. That they had these cool ideas, but it was meaningless without a character story, without something more ingrained in what the actual characters have done, their history together, their complexities. It has to be character focused. And they didn't have that until McFeely came up with this really wild, really cool idea. And I think part of the idea is just simply rooted in the idea of evil versions or dark versions of the heroes coming back and challenging the established heroes. And I kind of view Secret Wars as a way to take those characters and continue to put them through conflict, but have them actually work with other big-time heroes like the real versions of the heroic Avengers to then eventually overcome Doom. Now, how could all of this operate as like a beginning, right? Because I just kind of explained how I think it's going to be a focused narrative. And the way this focused narrative becomes a new beginning is obviously because of the MCU reboot. And the MCU soft reboot is this big time rumor that's apparently going to happen after Secret Wars. And it, you know, we don't know everything, but let me kind of explain the basics, the broad strokes of how we think this is going down. Doomsday, we'll see Doctor Doom enter the fold. He's going to be a character that is motivated to change the universe, and he will be sympathetic because we're going to find out that the version of the universe we've been watching, the entire MCU, the entire Infinity Saga, that was a lie. It was a fake reality created by He Who Remains, and the real MCU, or a more pure version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was very different than what we had seen before. And so therefore, Doctor Doom's going to be justified in recreating reality because the current one isn't even real. We think that'll happen in Doomsday. And then what will happen from Doomsday is this new universe will be created by Doctor Doom. And if the concept art is real, which we think it is, it means that aesthetic will happen on those planets. That will be the aesthetic of Doctor Doom's new universe. It's potentially the aesthetic of several movies, at least Spider-Man 4, maybe World War Hulk, and maybe others too that are connected to the Battleworld Saga, okay? So Doomsday, Doctor Doom comes in, he's like, fuck this universe, I'm remaking this shit. He does. And then Secret Wars will take place in the new universe. But there's an important thing here that was in the comics that will likely be in the movie as well. And this will be that versions of the heroes from 616 will survive. They will survive, and they will arrive in Doom's new universe. So they will remember everything that happened before. They will be heroes in their regular costumes, etc., etc. They will probably, likely, be some of the heroes that go through those character arcs in Doomsday and are perhaps taken out and made safe to travel into that new universe by like Loki or the original Tony Stark or the actual Steve Rogers Captain America with all the stones or whatnot. And I know I'm getting a little crazy, I'm getting a little nerdy here, but the point is Doom's creating a new universe, and then we think another new universe will be created after Secret Wars. And in that sense, this new universe will be a beginning. You know, the Doctor Doom universe will technically be a beginning because it will have an entire lore and back history that will probably unfold to us. If it's anything like in the comics, everybody that's in that universe will think this is just how it's always been. They will just think Doom is God. He's always been God. And thank Doom because life exists, you know? And so they'll just believe that. So that's a new universe. That's a beginning. But it's also a beginning that's going to be kind of reverse Uno'd. But I think the whole idea is this is meant to get the audiences to accept the changes that will be coming in the MCU reboot. Because, yes, that will also be a new universe. I personally think that what they're really trying to do in like the macro producer brain type of like way of explaining this, they're trying to take this very chaotic, completely disjointed universe. They're going to blow it up, and they're going to grab up really important parts of it, and they're going to tell a story with those important parts via Secret Wars and the Battleworld movies. Then they're going to blow up that universe. They're going to bring back the 616. I strongly feel, whether it's Loki or Doom or Franklin Richards, they will take the original version of 616 and bring it back, but add to it. Likely add the X-Men, likely add the Fantastic Four, perhaps other things as well. And you're going to mash it all together. And from that point on, you will have a new MCU. And I think even some of the characters like potentially Sam Wilson, Monica Rambeau, maybe the Young Avengers, a lot of characters that are currently in the MCU, but frankly have not caught on and are not cooking, they're going to get their chance in the Avengers movies to become endeared to the audience, meaning we will like them better, hopefully. And so in that sense, all of these movies and this entire next part of the ending of the Multiverse Saga is meant to focus the narrative around important characters and pieces and to reset the universe and then kind of reset the whole MCU so that it's a much more focused narrative from there. And to add to this, I will say that both Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and multiple insiders have made mention of the fact that this essentially has to do with the X-Men. That this story past Secret Wars will be X-Men focused, and that whatever's going on with the mutants in that story, that is that next focus chapter for the entire cinematic universe. That's what it's going to focus on. So you can see how these comments from the Russos about focus narrative and about the new beginning, it actually does line up with a lot of other rumors and stuff that we've been hearing. And I think it's good to hear. I mean, I really do think, like, it's so funny that they literally asked Chris Pratt, like, do you think these guys can save the MCU? And he's like, yeah, I think they're the guys for it. I got to be honest, I think so too. And I know, like, right now, Electric State is apparently cheeks. And they're saying a lot of wild shit about, like, AI and, like, Harvey Weinstein. Like, dude, Joe's going, I'm going to be honest, Joe. Like, bro, as somebody that basically lives with their foot in their mouth, totally understand it and appreciate it. But you're not some rando YouTuber guy. Like, you're big time, brother. You're making Avengers. You should probably just, you know. But yeah, he's out there saying some wild shit. But at the end of the day, they are the guys for the job, and they identify the problem. I think they have a way to fix it too, right? So ultimately, man, I'm still really optimistic about this whole thing, and I think it's so much bigger and more layered than a lot of us are understanding. Again, many people, and I don't blame people for being pessimistic, and maybe I'm a little optimistic just because, like, I love these guys and I love what they've done before. But I also report what I hear, dude. Like, I'm pretty authentic in, like, telling you what I really think is going on. I really think this is what's going on. This is a big repair job. And it's going to be happening in the midst of a story that I think will be some of the most engaging, fun stuff that Marvel has done in years. That's a W. So that feels great. And that's the first part of today's show and these comments from the Russo brothers. I'm sure you got some comments. Save them for the Q&A. We'll get into it. Pretty wild stuff. Now we have to actually go back to the article, though, because, of course, they're talking RDJ's Dr. Doom, and I got to get into this. I got to talk about what they said. Okay? So, back to the Russos. How will they bring back Robert Downey Jr. as the villainous Dr. Doom, given he died as a different character, Iron Man in Avengers Endgame? We can't explain that, as it's a part of the story, Anthony says with a grin. But there's nobody else in the world who could play this character the way he's about to. Okay, this is huge. This is clutch. And it's just one more little clue out there as far as what is happening with Robert Downey Jr. and Dr. Doom. Okay, so I obviously want to talk about this and I want to gush about this. I want to do one little thing, though. I want to show you this, okay? Because I'm cooking a big old video. I want to show you this. This is the thumbnail for this upcoming video. I might adjust it a little bit, but this is something I've been working on. Of course, I've talked about my theory many different times. It is that this guy, who we thought was Tony Stark, was never actually Tony Stark in the MCU. He was actually a Victor Von Doom variant. I know it sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds wild, but there's actually a lot of evidence for it. And the thing that's wild is the more that comes out about this movie, the more I am sure that this is what they are doing. So I am going to put a full video together that thoroughly explains the theory, that shows you some wild-ass evidence that's really going to blow your mind. And I'm going to include in that all of the recent comments, everything they've said, because it all of it ties into that theory, okay? But let's talk about the basics of what I think is going on here. So the Russos are asked about him coming back as a different character. And they said, we can't explain that as it's a part of the story. Now, again, for some reason, even though these guys keep talking about this, even though they keep talking about this idea they had, the story, and how they had to find a story way to get there, etc., etc., they're talking about the MCU, focusing the narrative and all this stuff. For some reason, so many people believe that they're just bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Dr. Doom because he's Robert Downey Jr. Not because he was Iron Man, but because he's Robert Downey Jr. and he's just so famous and he's just so cool. Everybody's going to be like, wow, that's just so freaking cool. And the thing that's so ridiculous about that is, like, a million other people could play Iron Man or Doom, right? And I totally acknowledge that. If we're just bringing Dr. Doom into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are a ton of other people that would be far better at just being Dr. Doom. But that is not what they are doing. And I urge you to think about the context of that conversation. They're talking about a centralized narrative. They're talking about a beginning, okay? There's no way they just brought Robert Downey Jr. back randomly. No, there is a plan there. Now, what I think it is then the TLDR is that he was never Tony Stark, that the entire MCU that we saw, which led up to the heroic, big old character arc of Tony Stark, which saw him eventually take the stone, sacrifice himself to stop Thanos, he invents time travel, all that sort of stuff. I am Tony Stark. All of that entire timeline was manipulated by He Who Remains, and the character of Victor Von Doom was purposely guided to be raised as Tony Stark. And there's one big specific reason why that happened. But all you need to know for now is that from the perspective of the Russo brothers, from the perspective of Steve McFeely, I believe, and him being activated in this process and having Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, the only way this makes sense, again, because they acknowledge it's a part of the story. It's not a gimmick. It's not some random thing. No, it's story-based. There's a story reason that this is happening. The only thing that makes sense, the only way that this is possible to have all the different comments and all the different rumors fit together is if he wasn't actually Tony Stark before. Now, that gets a little bit weird because built into that question is what makes a person into a person? Like, what decides what is Tony Stark? And ultimately, I think that's what makes the idea so cool, because what will first be introduced as a big retcon and will be this crazy thing that we're all like trying to wrap our heads around will become a conversation about nature versus nurture. And it will become a conversation about how Tony, the old Tony, was Tony, not because he was biologically come from the Starks, but because he was raised by the Starks. He made those decisions. He lived that life. And he is ultimately Tony Stark. And I know that's like a kind of wild, like esoteric, like philosophical idea, but those are the exact ideas and concepts that are the juice of great storytelling, great character moments, and great audience experiences. This thing they're cooking is going to shock, recontextualize, re-educate, and ultimately put the toys back on the shelf, probably most likely in the way that we had them. But that's good comic book storytelling. That's fun. And I think that is what they are doing. So without getting into all of the crazy details and doing like just this full ass hour of like explaining all the little pieces of evidence, I'm going to put that all in a big video. You can check it out. I feel very strongly that this is what's happening. And the part of this that's really wild for me is I have not seen or heard a single piece of information from any insider, any scooper, from the Russos themselves, from Kevin Feige. I have not heard a single thing from anybody that I consider to be reliable that makes me think I'm wrong. I don't know that I'm right, and there could be a version of my theory and some of the concepts I'm playing around with that they're toying with as well, and maybe it's just slightly different. But overall, I think this is real. So, of course, I had to bring it up. We're going to do that big video. I'm going to explain it in full detail. But I'd love to know, because of the stream setting here, it's just great to get your live feedback and your questions and, possibly your anger or whatever. So we can throw that all into the chat. We can have a good conversation about it when we get into the Q&A section. But, of course, I had to touch on those comments, baby. I mean, here's a question for you guys. If I am right about this, I mean, who's gonna give me my flowers? Like what? How? Come on! Like if I'm really right about this, this is the craziest shot call maybe of all time. Like, come on! That if this is real, and we basically figured it out pretty quickly, like right after July, after Homie was announced, then I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just really good at what I do. Like, frankly, I'm just really good at what I do. And what I do is be a giant nerd on the internet. So there you go. All right. Speaking of being a giant freaking nerd, it's time, baby. It's time, baby. We got to talk about Warhammer. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay. Here's a random question for you guys in chat, too, before we get into this. Do any of you know who Dan Abnett is? That's the question. Anybody know? Dan Abnett? Oh, yeah, we're going somewhere with this. Oh, yeah. Oh, you thought we were cooking on that Doom shit? Oh, we're cooking on this shit. Buckle in. So Dan Abnett is a writer, very accomplished writer. He's done an incredible amount of Warhammer books. He also has a legendary run of Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, so Dan Abnett actually did write Marvel Comics. He wrote stuff coming out of Annihilation. Really interesting stuff with like Peter Quill. I believe Nova was a part of that team too. I'm actually so interested in it. I want to go back and read Dan Abnett's Guardians stuff, his comics, because like I've been reading so much of his Warhammer stuff. I'm just like, wow, this dude's awesome. So kind of interesting just to put that out there. Dan's also written some stuff like in the Doctor Who universe, very accomplished writer. So anyway, there's this book called Pandemonium. A lot of you Warhammer fans, if you read the books, you'll probably know what Pandemonium is. It's an upcoming book. It's in the Bequin series of novels. It deals with interesting elements of a character known as the King in Yellow. We'll come back to that. Now, the point is, this is a very big deal. This book is a big deal for the Warhammer community, and Dan has sort of promised that this book is going to change the lore in a lot of different ways. Okay, so with that in mind, Dan recently was cornered at a con. He got a fan got some books signed and was able to ask Dan a couple of questions. What Dan revealed is quite interesting. So check this out. So I'll go over this whole thing. A lot of it doesn't pertain to what we're talking about, but let's just read the whole thing. Got to meet Dan Abnett and had some books signed. Actually amazing to meet him in person. Really friendly, and I was happy to answer all questions I had. I'm kicking myself for not taking my special editions of Pariah and Penitent along. I figured since they came signed, there's no point in getting them signed again, which I now regret. He confirmed that he'd like to revisit the Ghost when he has the chance, but currently has no other projects ongoing, having just finished one book and immediately starting writing another one. This is where it gets important. The delay for Pandemonium is because of the potential lore impact it's going to have on the setting and is due to Games Workshop wanting to get the lore in the TV show totally settled first. They apparently don't want to end up having some of the potentially galaxy-shaking events of Pandemonium contradict what they lay out in the show. Now, he talks about other books and some stuff with Alfarius and some stuff like that, but the point is, now this is the big deal. Now, I'm going to break down what this means. Of course, I'm going to bring some speculation to this, but I need you to really understand this. This is potentially the first piece of actual news that we have about the show, about the universe, and what they're planning. So, Games Workshop wanting to get the lore in the TV show totally settled first. Let's start there. Games Workshop, the first thing they're building in the Warhammer Cinematic Universe is a TV show. That was confirmed in the Deadline articles. Technically, Cavill never confirmed this, but Deadline and some of the Hollywood trades did confirm this, okay? So the first entry point for the WCU is a show. Now, this element here is really interesting because they're delaying a big book for the series because they want the lore of the show to be set up properly and not be contradicted by any of the stuff that's about to happen in Pandemonium. Now, what that implies is that they want the book lore to match up with the show and the Warhammer Cinematic Universe lore. Now, you might have said, especially if you're a Warhammer fan, you might think, of course, like, duh, obviously. But that is not always the case. And in fact, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as an example, you have comic book lore, and you have the comic book world, and then you have the MCU. The MCU is different. It takes stuff from the comic books, but it adapts them in a separate way. It technically has a separate lore. Okay, that does not appear to be Games Workshop's or Warhammer's plan. It seems like they want the book lore to match up with the show lore and the lore of the movies, etc. That's a huge W. That's really cool. But it gets even crazier. This could also imply that the show will be dealing in the modern era, meaning 40K rather than 30K. I'll TLDR this for people, but if you're a Warhammer fan, you already know what this means. Warhammer 40,000 is the modern setting of the Warhammer game. 10,000 years before that was the Horus Heresy. Now, the Horus Heresy is the biggest story chunk. It's like the most crazy lore part of the whole setting. It was when the lore and the whole thing of Warhammer kind of took to the next level. You know, had a bunch of novels hit the New York Times bestsellers list. It was a big expansive point for Warhammer in general. And so a lot of people were questioning as we went into this thing with Cavill, would we do 30K or would we do 40K? What it seems like is they want to have the lore connected, and they might be doing more modern stuff because this book and this whole setting is 40K stuff, not 30K stuff. Okay, now here's where it gets really fucking nerdy. And this might be where I lose you. I mean, we've already lost some people because, you know, it's whatever. But this is where it gets really, really nerdy. But let me cook here. Let me cook, okay? I could be reading too far into this. But this could potentially hint at who he's actually playing. Let me explain. I just told you all about this Pandemonium book. And I just told you all about how it's this huge thing in the lore. The fans are really excited about it, and it potentially is going to change things, recontextualize things in the lore, set up new major story beats. Okay. Well, at the end of the book that leads into Pandemonium, the big crazy lore thing was this character known as the King in Yellow was revealed to be a character known as Constantine Valdor. Constantine Valdor is one of the characters that Cavill has repeatedly mentioned as far as a character he would like to play in the Warhammer Cinematic Universe. And the reason why is because, I mean, first of all, Valdor is fucking awesome, but also he's the first Adeptus Custodes. And if you didn't know, I guess technically Legio Custodes, but that's also too nerdy. The point is, his favorite army, Henry Cavill, his favorite army is the Adeptus Custodes. That's my favorite army. I love the Custodes. Cavill and I are basically the same person. That's another thing. But the point is, this character, Constantine Valdor, is from all the way back in like 30K. There's a character that lives pretty much throughout the entire setting. After the Emperor is put on the Golden Throne, after he has his fight with Horus, Valdor leaves. And he just disappears. And everybody's like, wow, that's crazy. Where did he go? Well, this King in Yellow figure is, to me, absolutely the most compelling, interesting thing in the new Warhammer lore. This is a person that made his entire kingdom. He has this like huge golden kind of castle looking thing. It's all in this place called the City of Dust, which is a city in between dimensions. It's really crazy. He has custodians. He has these monsters from the warp. He has blood angels that he has manipulated to have wings like Sanguinius. So he has all these mutated winged space marines. This dude is such a threat in the modern Warhammer setting that all kinds of factions are working together to try to stop this guy. That's a big part of what this book series is about, figuring out who the King in Yellow is. And one of the craziest parts of it is what the King in Yellow is apparently looking for is he is looking for the true name of the God Emperor of Mankind. And if he gets the true name of the God Emperor of Mankind, he could potentially change the setting in all sorts of ways, potentially bringing the Emperor back to life, potentially taking the power of the Emperor, potentially shutting down the Golden Throne and allowing the Astronomicon to go out and the webway crashes open and all that sort of stuff. There's all kinds of lore-breaking shit that could be happening. And so the fact that this big anticipated book just happens to be about some of the most interesting modern Warhammer lore with a character that just happens to be one of Cavill's favorites, to be a character that he's mentioned several times as a character he would like to play, and the show itself has forced a delay in that book because it wants its lore to match up with the show lore. Oh my God. Like, they might actually be cooking some incredible stuff. And look, I could gush even more about this. A lot of it, I think some of you won't necessarily understand because you're not just super into the lore. I think that's maybe the the most basic version of like bringing you into why this news is such a big deal. We know that Games Workshop and Cavill have some kind of writer's room. They're cooking for the show. I'd love if Dan was involved in that. I don't know that he is. He obviously doesn't confirm it here. But this is pretty interesting. I think it's legitimately some of the first little pieces of information that we were getting about the Warhammer Cinematic Universe. And as we find out more, I will sort of refine what I think is going on. But I'm telling you right now, I guess the most simple way that I could explain it is thumbs up. It feels like they're cooking. It feels like they're cooking hard. This would be the equivalent of like doing Darth Bane in Star Wars. Like it would be like oh my God, they're doing Darth Bane. Like if they do the King in Yellow, holy shit. Like that is absolutely wild. So again, maybe we'll talk more about that in the future. Maybe we'll get some more updates, etc., etc. But yeah, that is potentially a massive deal, chat. First information about the Warhammer Cinematic Universe. Please let me know if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns. I'm so excited. I could gush about it for a long, long time, but I'm not going to. I'll leave it there, and hopefully all the questions in today's Q&A are about that subject so that I can just elaborate on it and gush about it. Okay, with that said, I think it's time to shift into Q&A. You know, I'm sure there's maybe some other smaller stories out there. Has any breaking news happened, chat, while I was gushing about the Warhammer stuff? I'm not really sure. But let's get into the Q&A here. So, as I always like to say to the people listening on the podcast feed, and really appreciate your viewership, your listenership over on the podcast feeds, it's been a pretty chill vibe so far. You know, it's been nice and calm. But now I'm about to open up a live chat. And I'm about to let these crazies talk to me. It might get wild. I might get triggered and we might crash out. I'm just trying to warn you. Here we go. Let me take a sip of freaking coffee before we get in here. Okay, let's get into it. Rossi says, I got the mother-loving Theories, Snips, Savers. Yeah, I was talking to Theory a little bit about you. And those sabers just on Instagram. But yeah, good for you, bud. I'm glad you got your sabers finally. That's cool. Zach says, 5 spot. Happy Monday, everyone. I got to watch after work, but take my money. Much love. Nerd Vengeance for life. Hey, I appreciate it, brother. Zach, thank you so much. And thank you for the gifted membership, too, man. Appreciate it. Kaylin J says, went to a 007 exhibit in Chicago on Saturday. Yo, that's pretty cool. Was it a good time? A 007 exhibit. What did they have? Like some of the memorabilia? Some of the cars? I bet Paul from Heavy Spoilers would have gone nuts for that, man. Would have gone nuts for it. Robocarts says, is Sam Wilson really going to end up fighting an evil Steve Rogers? I'm going to root for evil Steve Rogers. LOL. Yeah, I think so. And I think it won't just be him, though. You know, like it'll be him. It'll be Bucky. I mean, if you think about it, pretty much all of the Avengers would be heartbroken to see an evil Steve Rogers. I mean, Steve was in many ways the heart of that team. Not to the public, like Captain America's history with the public was super weird and propagandized. At one point, he's known as a war criminal. He goes completely underground for a while. But then after, Infinity War and Endgame, I think most people thought of Steve Rogers as a hero. But, like, his whole thing with the public was weird. But the Avengers, they knew. They knew. Let's see here. Braden says with a $20 holla. That ain't cheap. Appreciate you. Whoa. So you're saying Doctor Doom will be remaking the old MCU into the real original 616 universe that was always meant to be. Meaning, maybe that's why we see Sadie Sink as MJ in Spider-Man 4 after Doomsday. I think you're onto something there. I do. I think that it's going to be more traditional, but ultimately I think you'll see a hodgepodge of it all smashed together at the end of it all with like the reboot. But yes, I think that's what it will be. I think Doom will basically say, the original version of this universe was nothing like this. Kang literally turned me into a Stark, had me become adopted because he didn't want me to become Doom. In any possible future. So yeah, I think that's what it'll end up being in the motivation of all that. And then we'll see Doom create a new universe and then we'll see somebody else, maybe Doom, maybe Franklin, maybe all of them together, create the rebooted universe. Yeah. Kyber Sit, thank you for 5 gifted, man. That ain't cheap. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for those gifted memberships. Hell yeah. Jared Loveberry says, Saturday, 5:42, CT Fairgrounds Racetrack, number 12. Number 2, Chunk of Gold. My chance at getting into the Kentucky Derby. Nerd Vengers unite. Oh, my goodness. Chat, listen. Chat, listen. You know what we need to do? We need to put all of our energy together, and we need to propel Jareth Loveberry to a victory so that he can get into the Kentucky Derby. Dude, last time he got into the Kentucky Derby, it was so fun, man. It's so cool to have a Nerd Venger doing something big like that, and we all lost all of our money because we bet on Jareth to win. No, I'm just kidding, Jareth. But it is awesome. Really hope you get in there, brother. Really hope you get in here. Saturday, I'll send some vibes, man. I'll do a little do a little seance, a Ouija board or something. Joshua Kimball Bluegrass says, I started playing Rivals a few days ago. I still suck at the game, but hope to play some games when I get better. Oh, hell yeah, man. Yeah, it's always fun to play together, and we can do a custom game, too, where it's Nerd Vengers versus Nerd Vengers. That was really fun. We did that last month, and we had some hilarious moments because, you see a name, you recognize a member of the community, and you just got to get them. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it'll be fun, man. Come by Wednesday. We'll see what we can get figured out. It's going to be cool. By the way, too, apparently the esports, I watched a little bit of it yesterday, right? But they had a big esports tournament with pros for Marvel Rivals. Did any of you guys watch that at all? And I wonder how it performed. I love esports, but I kind of feel like esports never had the right game. Overwatch was close, but it just didn't go obviously very well. But dude, if Marvel Rivals esports can really pop off, I think they could do it. Like, the game's great, it has a huge player base, a lot of people understand it, so I think the casting of it is very digestible. So I was impressed with what I watched, but I'm really hoping that they can continue to refine that and stuff, because dude, Rivals, dude, we got to get a Nerd Vengers pro team, dude. How many of you out there are like Grandmaster? Hit me up. Mark Mayer says, Marvel done the weakest version of ideas for the past 6 years. Leads me to believe that they will do the weakest version of a Doom idea, unfortunately. A couple different problems with your statement. And I'm not trying to be rude or whatever. It's all good, however you feel. But you say Marvel has done the weakest version of ideas for the past 6 years. That's not strictly true, but even if it was, it's without the Russo brothers. So, like, your own point folds on itself because they weren't there. So, you know what I mean? Like, why are you attributing to them the problem that they had nothing to do with? Just doesn't make sense, but it's all good. Braden Thompson says, chat, hit up Discord when he's done with Warhammer. Don't do that, chat. And even though you gave me $20, you're banned. Kyber Sid says, so you're saying our Love You 3000 greatest hero ever is actually phony Stark? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I feel like he's going to come out there and be like, I hate you all 3000. And then Tom Holland Spider-Man's going to be like, wait, what? Mr. Tony RDJ Dr. Doom Stark, sir? What the hell? And then he can have a bureau and shut up, Joshua Kemble Bluegrass says, I didn't like your Doom theory at first because I'm so attached to RDJ as Tony, but the more I hear you talk about it, the more I think about it. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, look, part of the reason it's so good is because I think the initial reaction for most fans is like a knee-jerk, like, no, like, oh, I don't like it. Ultimately, though, what does that mean? It means you're engaged. It means you're paying attention. And if they can do it and not make it just feel super hollow and gimmicky, like if there's like actual character reasons why, if there's like a really interesting conversation to be had about nature versus nurture, what makes a person, then I think it's going to feel really good. Do you know what I mean? If he says, I hate you 3000, I might die of laughter. Me too. And I'll still love it, dude. Joshua Kemmel says, it makes sense, especially after rewatching all the movies with Tony in them. I'm starting to get excited about it. I mean, now you know where I'm at. I've been excited about it. The theory made me more excited about it, you know? Riley S. says, I know it's Andor, but I feel I have to tell you as a Rebels fan, no way Lothal isn't in season 2. Maybe shots in trailer to support it. I have no idea what you're talking about, Riley. I'm sorry. You know, I know there's probably some Star Wars fans that are like excited for Andor. And you know, maybe there's a part of me that wishes I could be excited about it, or at least just be chill enough to like make content about it. But I also am not. I hate the show. Star Wars is breaking my heart. I don't even remember what's in the trailer. Sorry. Joshua Campbell Bluegrass says Tony's line in Endgame about whether his suits of armor around the world would affect their freedom or not was 100% Doom. Well, yeah, because, I mean, here's one of the other things that's really cool about it. If he was Doom that was adopted, a lot of the shady stuff that he did, it makes a little bit more sense, right? I mean, let me just tell you a couple of things that Tony did in the MCU that Tony Stark in the comics never did. Number one, invent time travel. Nope. You know who did it? I'm not ignoring you, Rob. I just saw you, brother. Holy. One thing, invent time travel. Tony never did that. You know who did that in comics? Dr. Doom. You know what else Tony did in the MCU? He created Ultron. Tony never did that in comics. Hank Pym creates Ultron in comics, not Dr. Doom. But still, Tony did stuff in the MCU that, like, Tony would not do. Why? How? What's the explanation? Interesting stuff. Am I the only one that thinks Valdor cliffhanger could be a misdirect? Yeah, probably. And it's just definitely not. I mean, that would be a very crazy twist, because the problem with thinking it's a misdirect, because I've gone down this rabbit hole. The problem with thinking it's a misdirect is, like, you'd have to think, because that's the fucking 10th book in a series, dude. You'd have to think that almost 100,000 words of storytelling, 10 book in a series, would all lead to one cliffhanger that's a misdirection? You really think, like, just think in terms of Occam's razor. You really think that's the explanation for it? And you really think he's lying to the point where he's going to tell people at a con that they're delaying his book? No? Like, do you know what I mean? Nah, can't be. Joshua Campbell Bluegrass says Snorehammer with a bunch of Z's. Yeah, right. You know you love that shit. Shub says, Josh, completely unrelated, but now that we're getting all these Superman news, do you think Gunn ever regrets leaving Marvel and going to DC? I don't know. I mean, that's like a personal question. I don't think so. I gotta be honest. I think even if it all blows up in his face, he probably won't regret it. I obviously don't know the dude, but the way I think of it is like, look, he had an opportunity here, and it's weird how it all happened, because, like, he's not that guy. Nobody reasonable was going to give him the job. They asked everybody in Hollywood before Peter Safran, and then Zaslav wanted Safran without Gunn. It was Safran's idea to bring Gunn in. So Gunn has just handed this incredible opportunity. He did not deserve it, frankly. He's handed this incredible opportunity, and he loves DC Comics. So, like, to him, this is a dream job. This is a dream scenario. We also know Jon Favreau is getting paid more than James Gunn to, like, make this movie and make a Star Wars show every couple of years. And Gunn is, like, nonstop writing, nonstop planning, nonstop meeting, giving it his all. He's not even getting paid enough as much as Jon Favreau gets paid to make the Star Wars shit. But so why is he doing it? Well, he's doing it because it's an incredible opportunity, and he thinks he can actually pull it off. He thinks he's like the one person that can actually pull it off. And even if he doesn't, how could you possibly regret being handed that opportunity, stepping into it, and giving it your best shot? I mean, I might not think he's the best guy for the job. I don't really love his sensibilities, and I might not even like Superman. We'll see. But I give him all the props in the world for, like, taking that shot and for wanting to be that guy and for trying. So no, I don't think he's gonna regret it. I mean, would it suck if Superman bombed and, like, the whole thing blows up in his face? For sure. But no, man, like, I don't think he regrets it. Vandalf the Black says, love your theory, Josh, on Doom, because that means we get to have a new Tony. Why is that not a hype thing? I mean, we actually get Demon in a Bottle, could slap. I want to see a comic book Tony. Yeah, so I don't know if they're actually going to do that, though. There's a lot of... Because they could do that. It really depends on how do they want to leave Doom or Secret Wars and go into the soft reboot. Do they want a new Tony? Because I've heard some rumblings that they do. I have heard some rumblings that they absolutely do. And let's not forget, Shine said there could be a way for RDJ as Doom to stick around in the new MCU. Now, one of the reasons that I have trouble believing this is all the stuff they're doing with the Disney parks. I mean, they're building a Stark ride right now, unless it's secretly not a Stark ride, right? But like, imagine doing a Stark ride, paying Robert Downey Jr. $100 million. And by the way, they are bringing him back as Tony Stark as well. He's not just Dr. Doom. You're going to have literal scenes between RDJ's Doom and RDJ's Iron Man. Do you realize that? I've said this before, but that's real. Like, that's going to happen. And in fact, RDJ right now has literally probably done some of those scenes completely on his own because he plays both roles. I'm telling you right now, at some point, Robert Downey Jr. in some fancy ass robe with way too much coffee in his bedroom in his $1 million mansion or whatever the fuck he lives in has dead ass had a script in his hand where Tony Stark has a conversation with Dr. Doom and he plays both characters. That is 100% a thing that has absolutely happened. And I cannot wait to see it myself. I believe they're probably going to still try to keep Iron Man and his legacy intact. And instead, what this thing with Doom will sort of be an acknowledgement that this guy, the other version, the Tony Stark guy, was being manipulated by this force. That would be He Who Remains. And yet he still ends up becoming a hero. And it still ends up being awesome. And he's still Tony. So I'm kind of confused about how that's all gonna play out, and that's cool. Like I don't need to know everything, and there's a lot of mystery, and I'm interested in it. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what they're gonna do with that. You know what I mean? But I appreciate you. Bobby says, "How you feel about Andor is how we feel about Warhammer." Oh, but the difference is I'm right about Andor, and you guys are wrong about Warhammer. So, like, as much empathy as I have for you, I'm right and you're wrong. Do we need to go over the Warhammer stuff again? Kyber Stith says, will we see Doom possess the body of Tony Stark? No, highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Anything's possible. But I don't think so. I don't think so. Big Nick Energy says your Doom theory is brilliant storytelling wise. That said, I hate it. How do us diehard RDJ Iron Man fans reconcile that he was never really Tony? Well, see, like that's the beautiful part, right? Is like, remember the Russo said challenging to the audience? Do you remember this? They have literally used the words, this is going to challenge the audience. And that exact question you're asking, Big Nick Energy, which by the way, I love that name. That exact question you're asking is at the crux of why it's challenging. Right? What made him Tony? Was it his DNA? Or was it his choices? Yeah, interesting. Paradise says, fine, I'll be right by myself, LOL. What? Come on, man. Come on, man. You know what it is. Warhammer. It's the future. We got actual news for the first time. Hey, come on. You know you're excited. Hey, Adam, you know you're excited about that news, right? Help me out here. Hey, help me out here, Adam. Come on. You know you're excited about that shit. It's time for Warhammer, baby. Iron Mando Collecting says, Josh, did you see the Russo brothers having a Scarlet Witch comic in the Electric State? Yeah, I believe it was an old Avengers comic, right? Am I wrong? Feels like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Hey, 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 hey. Yeah. Interesting, man. Yo, the Electric State was good. I actually haven't watched it, and one of the reasons why I'm a little nervous. You should watch it. I'm a little nervous. I don't know. West Coast Avengers? Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense that they would put that in there. Yeah. What else is going on, guys? Any other interesting questions? Any other interesting stories out there? There's a lot of little things out there. A lot of like little stories here and there cooking. Nothing too crazy. Let me see here. See if I can find any of the stuff I'm talking about. Oh, you know what? I've been thinking about making this into a whole ass video, but I could, should I talk about a crazy theory I have that's connected to the concept art leaks? Should I maybe talk about that a little bit and then we can call it a show? The Fantastic Four is definitely an alternate reality story. Yeah, no, it is. It is. Although I will tell you, Rob, there were rumors that they were going to be from the original version of the 616. I've heard those rumors are maybe not true, and that might have been changed in the movie. So it's definitely multiversal alternate reality, but I am personally not thinking as much in my current theory crafting that they are from 616. Now, they might be from the Doom. You think they definitely are? So all I'm telling you is what I heard from some like really good scoopers. They could be wrong. But it might be the case that they're from the universe that Doctor Doom is from, which is technically the original version of 616, which was like before He Who Remains. But as far as them being from our 616, and then they, like, because there was a theory that they were in our universe in the 60s, and then they went into this other Earth. Interesting. So you heard they are from 616. Interesting. So a little bit of conflicting reports there. So, yeah, I definitely originally heard that. But then in some recent conversations, somebody said, basically, I can't tell you exactly what they said, but they said that that could have been changed and probably not from 616. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe if it depends on what you consider 616. Because if you consider the original version of Marvel before the Multiversal War, before He Who Remains took Alioth and, you know, ended it, maybe you could think of that as 616, like the actual original 616. I don't know. Alex says, with a 10 spot, it feels like He Who Remains took the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Doom out of the main timeline to ensure his survival. Maybe the only way Kang could take out Doom was to change his path, and new nature versus nurture was a way. I mean, I have a theory about why I think he didn't want Doom to be Doom. And it has to do with magic, actually. Because one of the other big things that Marvel's been playing with this idea for the past several years. Even in the Infinity Saga, they were playing with this idea. And the idea is magic and science together. Magic and science together. Are they ultimately the same thing, or when integrated properly is like that the sauce? Magic and science. And I think this is like what the Celestial World Forges are. Like there's a lot of like deep Marvel stuff that I think is the connection between science and magic. And I think He Who Remains ultimately said, I can never allow Doom to be the actual Doom Because if he takes science and magic together, that will always threaten me. So you'll notice that what is Tony Stark in the MCU? What's Tony Stark's whole thing in the MCU? Not in the comic books, in the MCU. What is his defining attribute within the context of magic and science? Anybody? Anybody know? Anybody see where this is going? He doesn't like magic. He doesn't study magic. He doesn't believe in magic. This is actually more like Reed Richards in the comics. In the comic books, Reed Richards can't stand magic. He doesn't believe in magic. He only believes in science. Well, that attribute was given to the MCU Tony Stark. Remember how he talks to Doc Strange in Infinity War? Yes, quite interesting. So, if you want to prevent Victor Von Doom from becoming the Victor Von Doom where he will have technology and science together, what do? You have him be adopted by futurists that only believe in technology. So he literally only develops about half of his true abilities. Because Doom's abilities are like rooted in the combination. His mother was a witch. His father was a healer and a scientist. Do you see the flavor? Do you see how they could be cooking? Nerds Engage with a 10 spot here says Doom is too big of a character for only 2 movies and some cameos, but RDJ can't play him forever. So maybe we get a happy ending for Tony and a different actor for Doom by the end. That is also a possibility. Definitely a possibility. We don't know for sure. And it's also possible Marvel doesn't know. Did you know that going into Endgame, they did not know if they were going to kill Tony Stark? The Russo brothers did not want to kill Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. did not want to kill Tony Stark. Now, eventually, they all get on board. But as they were making that movie, there was serious conflict among that team. And by the way, Jon Favreau did not want to kill Tony Stark. Like, a lot of people thought, dude, if you kill Tony Stark, you are going to end this whole thing. That was real, and they did it. So what I'm saying is, as we get into Secret Wars, there will probably be disagreements of what they should do with Doom and Tony. And maybe they'll figure it out, like, as they're making the movie. I'm just speculating, but I'm also using real-world examples. When they were doing it in Endgame, they didn't know exactly what they were going to do, right? Does that make sense? Joshua Campbell says, they probably, from the original 616, and when they show up at 616, when they escape from where they're, they'll be like, what the fuck? This isn't home. Yeah, totally agree with you. That would be cool, right? They come back to their home universe, but it's completely different because He Who Remains remade it. Wouldn't that be wild? Alex says, personally, the Magic vs. Science ideas is why we should be more excited for Ironheart and hope that there will be some tie-ins. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's the only part of it that interests me, frankly. And that is an interesting element. But it's just like, I really don't care about those characters. So, you know, there's a difference between doing RDJ Tony Stark, doing RDJ Iron Man, doing fucking Secret Wars, and then doing a show about Riri Williams. You know how many years ago Riri Williams was invented? Like less than 10. Maybe less than 15. She has no actual history in Marvel Comics. She has not done anything cool. She doesn't have rivalries. She doesn't have all the things that make characters like Tony Stark, like Doctor Doom, awesome. So while I acknowledge your point, what are you asking me to do? To think that I will be so excited about this one extrapolated idea and how it might have something to do with the show about a character that I have no interest in, that has no comic book history, that they haven't done shit with in the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm supposed to get excited about it? I don't know, brother. Jerry Comics with a 10 spot says, what's up, Josh? Based on what you heard about F4, how excited are you for it on a scale from 1 to 10? 11, maybe 12. I've heard nothing but incredible things about that movie. And that's not always the case, right? As we've talked about this in the past, that's not always the case. With this movie, though, gas. gas. So, yeah, I'm very excited, dude. The Winter Soldier with a $5 holla says, 1, do you see Sam and Bucky being a big Hickman Avengers run style roster? 2, how would Doom work without Rabum Al build up in the Hickman run? Yeah, it's fair. So I think the Rabum Al stuff is going to be built up maybe as a, like, I got to be honest with you guys. And let me just say this, okay? I have not heard this from anybody. This is not a scoop. This is nothing. I have not heard this from anybody. But I'm going to tell you right now what I think is going to happen. I think Galactus is going to roll up to Earth, and he's literally going to be like, Rabum Allah shot up my whole block. I need your crazy-ass son to rebuild my universe. I'm telling you right now, I believe that's what's going to happen. You will hear Rabum Allah uttered from Galactus's mouth. Theory. That's a theory. That's how it starts. And I think a lot of it will also be built up in Doomsday. Now, of course, that's not like ideal. That's not an ideal situation because it would have been way cooler to have like, and by the way, I just put this into the big comic book video that I'm doing. That's like going to be so cool. And Rob's so mad because he knows that video is going to be dope as hell. But in that video, I was explaining that, like, Rabum Allah via the Black Swan is essentially introduced at the very start of that story. When in the first issue of New Avengers, when T'Challa meets the Black Swan, she's a random person that blows up a whole Earth in front of him. And she's all about Rabum Allah, the Great Destroyer. She worships the Great Destroyer. So, like, from the very jump, that story did a much better job of, like, setting stuff up and explaining it. But I will also say this. If we're being honest, there is a little bit of recency bias with even the Hickman stuff. Because, like, for instance, bro, you don't know shit about what's happening for, like, years. And then in basically 3 to 4 issues, the whole explanation is dumped on you. There's a whole issue that's all about Hank Pym. And he has gone through the microverse and all that shit, and he found the Beyonders, basically. And it's this whole fucking issue that basically just explains, it like retcons the Beyonders, explains that the Ivory Kings are the Beyonders, and it says we're totally fucked. Yeah, 30. But the thing is, and Rob, you know this, but like they don't know this shit. You know what I mean? In the comics, a bunch of shit was explained at the very end, too. So we like to believe that like Hickman's run, and don't get me wrong, it's goated. There's nothing like it. It was incredible. But it also wasn't this perfectly set up thing. A whole bunch of explanation happens right at the fucking end. You know how much of Doctor Doom is in that entire run? Like basically nothing. And then issue 31 and 32. And 33. And then Secret Wars. Right? So like this idea that Doctor Doom was perfectly set up in the... No, he fucking wasn't. Now, Rabum Allah was, and that was cool because it was in the background and it drove everything. And then eventually you're like, oh, that was Doctor Doom. But guys, it didn't happen perfectly in the comics, and it was still fucking awesome. So let them cook. Between Fantastic Four and Doomsday, they can actually do a pretty good job of setting this whole thing up, in my opinion. So we'll see. Jacob Stowe says, AI this, AI that don't matter. The Russo's back and they're gonna save Marvel. No Avengers for life. Hey, appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. Alex says with a 10 spot, well, Mephisto does have ties to Cynthia Von Doom, and I still believe they will combine Nicholas Scratch and the Hood. Yes, I know we don't 100%. We don't know 100% if Mephisto is in it, but I'm choosing to have faith. And look, it's a tough one for me, man, because Alex, like, I understand what you're saying. And man, if the Ironheart show, if I truly believed that it was actually going to be dope and deal with a lot of the stuff you're talking about and be like proper setup and dope, I would be excited. But this is a show that was literally, it wrapped filming about 2 years ago. Okay. And as far as what I've heard, the only thing that happened since then is they've just made it smaller and removed more. Think Echo. Echo was like 9 episodes. It became 5. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with Ironheart, but I heard some of the stuff they were cooking. It was attached to Kang. They probably ripped it all out. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just hard for me to believe that that's actually going to be a great project. And that is a little bit of like where Marvel is at right now. Because frankly, we all knew Brave New World was not going to be that great. And it wasn't. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, I would have to literally make shit up and ignore stuff I know to be true in order to be hyped up for Ironheart. And that's not going to happen. You know, but I hear you, and like, you're kind of in this place where you're like, yeah, but it could be great and all these other things. Like, yeah, but this could be, yeah, dude, you're right. You're not wrong. But I have all sorts of reasons to believe that it won't be. That's just, you know, that's what it is. There was this amazing moment when the Illuminati ask how long they have until the next incursion, and Black Swan says moments. They look at each other and says, "We're bummel and the incursion starts. Yeah, there are a ton of incredible moments in that run, you know. And I think that like at the end of the day too, you know what else people forget about Secret Wars? The final issue was delayed like 6 months, and there was literally a comic book that was like a meta, almost like a Deadpool comic. Rob, I wonder if you remember this. Let's see. Let's put Rob to the test. Rob, do you remember the story that was actually about Jonathan Hickman and how he was literally saying that he didn't have an ending for Secret Wars? I don't know if you remember this. Let's see. Let's see if Rob remembers. He probably does. But the point is, guys, even that ending, which now we look back at that ending and we're like, dude, it's fucking perfect. Yeah, it was a meeting. See, Rob knew. It was a meeting in the Marvel's office, dude. I should bring that up. I wish I had I easily knew what it was and I could pull it up for you guys. But the point I'm making is, we look back at that book and we're like, dude, it was a perfect ending. It makes the whole story of Reed and him make sense. It actually ties technically all the way back to Hickman's FF. If you really think about it, it could tie it all the way back to fucking Stanley and Jack Kirby's run. It's like this beautiful encapsulation of everything Marvel. It was delayed 6 months. He didn't know what to do. They had to launch the new series of books before the fucking ending even happened because it was so delayed. It was so delayed, and he was so nervous about the ending that they made a comic book making fun of how he didn't have an ending. So we do this like revisionist history thing a lot and this recency bias thing, and we're like, dude, the comics were fucking flawless and they figured it out perfectly and the movies could never. No. It's always a scramble. It's always at the razor's edge trying to figure it out. It could fall apart at any moment. And good art is just figuring it out. That's it. Figure it out. Doesn't have to be completely thought out at the beginning. Doesn't mean it can't be satisfying. Doesn't mean it can't have a good ending. I feel like, I'll just leave it there. But that's what I mean. Is like, my point is, there's this attitude in the Marvel fandom that because it's not perfect, and because it hasn't been set up perfect, it can't be good. And it's like, y'all, that's not actually what happened in the comics. Like, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's just, you know, that's it. That's all I want to say. And the Russos, and they're making a beginning, not an ending with Secret Wars. Yes. I think that's a good move, too. So overall, I'm pretty optimistic about the whole thing, you know. Cap versus the Nail. Yeah, the small stuff. Yeah, well, that's the other thing, too, is like, if you think about Endgame, Rob, right? And Endgame takes, and I thought Paul made this point beautifully in the video he made the other week. Endgame takes these little moments, like on your left. Bro, on your left, that doesn't mean shit. It was one thing said at the beginning of that movie with him and Sam, and it becomes this beautiful moment when they come through the portal and the emotion washes over Cap because he finally doesn't have to stand alone. Holy shit. But like they didn't know they were going to do that when they wrote it in the old movie. Part of being a good writer and part of being a good storyteller is being able to play jazz. You take something that worked before and you find a way to make it more interesting, give it a different context in the future. The Russos are really good at that. So there's a bunch of little moments that I think will be played off of in these next two movies, which will really emphasize big character things. It'll make it feel better. And look, is some of this cope? Sure. But I'm also choosing to believe that we will get a good outcome here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of choosing to believe that, sure, there's a lot of stuff that's whack. There's stuff that's, you know, it's a business. It's corporate art. It's, you know, it's Hollywood. It's the biggest franchise of all time. And it's messy. It has been messy. But ultimately, it was messy before and they pulled off some hits. I think they're cooking here. I really think they're cooking. And I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic about how it's all going to end up. But, yeah, look, I think that's a good place to stop. I think this is a good ending for today's show. I'm grateful that the Russos even made these comments because they sort of allow us to have these conversations, which I think have been very good. And so thank you for being here. Thank you guys for all the good comments and questions today. I thought it was a really good Q&A section, as usual. And then, of course, thank you for listening to the Warhammer news as well. I'm quite excited about the Warhammer news, guys. I think they're cooking there. And, oh, my God, I really think... I think you guys are going to get it. And in a couple of years, you're going to look back and be like, you know what, Josh? You were so crazy. You were so ridiculous. You wouldn't shut up about it. But ultimately, I see what you mean. This is fire. So, yes, that's what we got. That's what we're cooking. I'm going to get on out of here for today. Big videos coming up throughout the week. Remember, tomorrow night we're doing the Daredevil watch party. I can't wait for that. Episode 4 going to be really good. Wednesday night we're playing Marvel Rivals. Friday I'm out of town, but make sure you stay tuned to social media. I'm going to meet Star Wars Theory, doing a live show with Star Wars Theory at a Comic-Con in Cleveland. And wait till you see the gift I got him for his birthday. Unfucking believable. You're going to go nuts for it. Okay, everybody. Appreciate you all. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, it's a short stream. I'm a part-time streamer, full-time, part-time streamer, and all that shit. Oh, my God. Guys, you know what? Hey, look, I know some of you have heard this before. It's not all about the length. You know? Like sometimes it's about what you do with what you got. Oh shit. All right. Listen. No. Listen. Guys, come on. I know you just want more. I totally understand it. You just want more. But guys, I got a lot going on. We're trying to figure it out. I stream all the goddamn time. You know it. You fucking know it. You know how many streams I'm doing tomorrow? 2. You know how many streams I'm doing on Wednesday? 2. You know how many streams I'm doing on Thursday? One. You know how many I'm doing Friday? None. And thank God. Don't you understand? Do you know how busy I am? Come on, man. We're getting in here every day, charging you up, getting you filled in with all the information, having fun, speculation, theories, videos. Come on. Stop yelling. Okay, I'm sorry, Bianca. I'm sorry. You know, I just get a little heated, you know. I feel underappreciated when I end the stream and I just see a bunch of people being like, oh, they're so short. It's a fucking short stream. Joshua says, it's not what she said. Oh, right. Hey, how many of us go to work every day? I don't know. Don't put that evil on me. I didn't design capitalism. Okay, fine, Bianca. Okay, all right. Anyway, how many of you guys are going to be there on Friday? Any of you? That is going to be pretty cool, man. I'm excited. And don't worry, I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow. I know you're worried. I know you're like, I don't want my boy out there on these streams and these vlogs with Theory looking like shit. You're banned from Cleveland? Feel like there's a story there. Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be a good time, man. I really appreciate y'all. Let's just keep the vibe strong, man. Let's keep the vibe strong. We're gonna have a good show tomorrow, I promise. Daredevil watch party tomorrow night. Wednesday night, we're playing games together. Come on, man. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. All right, everybody. Much love. Remember, open up your third eye and wash out your stinky, stinky butt hole. See you. Bye-bye. Oh, what the hell? Kyber2 says, Josh, did you even put shorts on for work today? No, I'm wearing the same pair of sweatpants I've been wearing for 3 days straight. There, are you happy? And yeah, they stink. I worked out in them too. But you know what they say? Everybody loves their own brew. Okay, I'll see you later. Peace out.